Welcome to today's episode of Misogynists Giving Writing Advice. Today's topic is how to write novels men want.
Nothing like waking up to another gender war. Sun's not even up yet and I already gotta deal with this shit. Time to make some coffee and deal with this. Here's your 10-second explanation. Guys from video 1 are basically the equivalent to the Alpha Male podcast, but with fantasy books. The second video embodies the concept of blue hair with nose ring. They've decided to go to war with each other. Here's the part that actually sucks though. About 90% of what they both say is bullcrap, but they have tiny bits of correctness that I actually want to draw on. Sorry, apparently I forgot it's bone time. Alright, you know what to do. Oh, see? She knows what to do. Are you gonna do what you're supposed to? There you go. The first thing we have to deal with is that they both appeal to authority. Really basic concept, basically saying that because I have this much education, this much ranking, this much this or that, I have the highest authority. So I'm about to beat them both so that we can put an end to that quickly. To them, they have dangly bits because they know what they're talking about and their YouTube channel has 3,000 followers. According to her, she doesn't have dangly bits, therefore she's offended enough so that she is in charge of this all. She also claims to be like an editor or a writer, but I couldn't find anything about that, actually. Proof I have dangly bits. I haven't taken out the trash yet. Proof I'm an author. Here's book 1. Here's book 2. Here's the draft for book 3 and 4. Extra credit. I'm educated. Okay, appeal of authority is over. It would be way too long if I went over every individual point they both make, so let's just hit the highlights. First one that stuck with me was with the two guys where they basically said that men don't want descriptors. They want just straightforward, give the facts and move on. Their proof didn't put my dishes away. 4 out of 5 my closest friends all read fantasy. All guys, by the way. The concept of descriptors is not a gender-based thing. It doesn't matter if you have dangly bits. What matters is good writing. Since none of them are actually writers, they don't know that. To prove what I mean, let's give a really quick example. Bob walks into a large building. Example number 2. With a determined glare, Bob looks up into the enormous stone building that encompasses the incredible amount of magical energy that protrudes from the grand wizard that stands at the pinnacle of it, calling each of his subjects to see which will be his next apprentice to take his place as the mightiest of wizards. Bob shields his eyes from the gleaming sun as he looks up at the stone building with determination. The powerful wizard calling upon his subjects to find the next apprentice that will take his place as the mightiest of warriors of magical energy. The beaming energy from the building illuminates like a powerhouse, giving a electrical buzz that can be felt even in the boots of the men that stand by it. He strides in, ready for his next test, to prove himself the mightiest. What chapter 1 are you going to finish? I really wanted to go in and I would have given the smell of the area, maybe the sound, something I'd get in the edit. I just pulled that out of my butt. However, the next thing they say is actually correct. We're constantly told books are not written for them. And that's true. How many times have you read, "This is not for you, white man"? Insert the blue-haired lady from the second video. Listen, you tell us that. And it's not shocked that the numbers are actually falling. Which is where they're wrong again. It said 30% of men read fantasy books. That's untrue. The actual number, according to Goodreaders and other cited sources, is more like 56% of men are fantasy readers. The market, I mean. However, fantasy, even though it has the most number of published books in the last few years, has actually dropped 15% in sales. So, more books to read, less people reading it. Obviously, there's a disconnect. That disconnect actually has to do with the main characters. Studies show women can connect to either male or female main characters, and that's true. Men, on the other hand, not as much, especially the type of women they've been writing about recently. I'll give you a basic description of a concept for a fantasy novel. You tell me if this sounds familiar. Female main character, teenage of years, about 100 pounds in weight, is the bestest warrior to ever bestest the warriors. She comes from nothing, but somehow gets into the incredible academy, or school, or training, or the military. While there, she's the only competent warrior and leader who seems to take charge of everything, tell everyone what to do. Oh, and also she's the bestest. Described as middle of road attractiveness, usually really on the thin and frail side, with no distinctive features, other than the fact that she has something in her eyes in which is never described. Finds out later she's actually the adopted daughter or long-lost daughter of some ancient powerful family. Oh, she's also the key to everything. She gets a magical beast like a dragon. It's a female power fantasy Mary Sue character. Don't forget, every male character is evil. Evil, that's all. Incompetent, or a total simp for the main lead. And all the other guys are brooding 10 out of 10s whose descriptors fill 2.5 pages of their bestness and awesomeness. basically encompassing all the toxic masculinity women claim in this sphere of influence, while also writing them as their preferred partners. These all prince, warrior, super soldier, amazing men also immediately fall in love with this main character for some unknown reason that even the author can't find a reason to discover. Even, other than saying, he fell in love with her soul. About halfway through the book, she finds out she's also magical somehow because of something else that they'll never tell you about, which leads to her being the actual most powerful-ist and eventually becomes queen. Yeah, it's basically the plot of, like, Four Wings, Throne of Glass, Shadowmark, like, basically any of the major hits for modern fantasy. Like, all the New York Times bestsellers. Seriously, if you pull up the list of the top 10 bestsellers from last year, that is literally describes 8 of those books. Oh, men don't want to read that? Shocker. Let's balance it out where she's right. Alpha podcast over there said men don't like romance. Who are you lying to? Have you ever been to a shipping community? That's like 90% dudes. Men like good, slow burn romances where the characters actually develop, have interesting relationships, and there's actually something for men to appeal to, like an actual beautifully described woman. The man is, attainable. It doesn't have to be a self-insert, but it should be something that's actually enjoyable and realistic. Some Hallmark movie. Basically, literally the opposite. Just right the opposite. Men used to dominate the fantasy market, and then it was taken over by this kind of writing. Why? What changed? Well, this is where she was right again. A little bit. They basically just said it was all, modern problems are put in books, and they don't like that. She accurately describes that there's a difference between strong themes and politics. And she immediately makes herself wrong again, because she then says politics are good in books, which is not true. The problem is people are tired of the woke political bullcrap that are taking over fantasy novels. A pretentious writer with some English degree, with, took too many gender studies courses, is there to lecture you on the evils of your toxic male white masculinity. Hey, guys, you don't want to read a book on how you're literally the devil? What's wrong with you? Read my book. Read my book. Oh, we don't want to read that. By the way, guys, it doesn't get much better in the other direction either. The male writers have gotten back into it, but the problem is they're literally writing the exact same thing I just described about the Mary Sue female power fantasy, except the male version. Some nerdy gooner that, gets every attractive woman that breathes in his general direction because he's different somehow, because he's a big nerd. He's also now the most powerfulest in that universe. And the smarterest. Guys, don't just write the same thing in the opposite direction. You have to actually write something good. People love a good theme. Talk about the impact of alcoholism in a relationship or a family. Talk about the conflicts of financial stress amongst a couple. I'll tell you what, everyone's going to love that. But the key to that is you actually have to write it from both perspectives. The author is not there to tell you what to think. That's the biggest problem with writing. Stop telling people what to think. Our job as authors is to present both sides of the story, and then the reader decides who is right. It's something I heavily focused on in my own book. Things like identity, race, sex, sexuality should never be a determinant whether or not someone wins or loses a fight or an argument, ever. You just hate inclusivity. Hell no. Inclusivity is one of the most powerful aspects in writing. It was just taken over by politics and check-in-the-box writing. Being inclusive, including different characters of different worlds, cultures, etc., could be absolutely amazing to your writing and bring a whole new level of diversity and intrigue to your story. The interesting part about them has to be more than whatever that indicator is. If you write a black character, don't make him the black guy. Make him the civil engineer that works his ass off, that has small intricacies that are, interesting to other people, or something that maybe bothers some individual. Another character, like, let's say, I don't know, a lesbian, who seems to understand some of his intricacies because other people don't understand hers. So they build and form a relationship about those kinds of issues. Also going on the fact that his most important quality is the fact that he's a civil engineer. I have no problem with inclusivity. Just look at Arcane. That is one of the most inclusive things I've ever saw, and it's one of the most highly rated shows ever made. The video's getting really long. I'm going to stop here with my conclusion. Both sides are wrong. Both sides say a few right things. Going back and forth is just dumb. Just write a good fantasy story. Have fun with it, guys.